So my manager, the one who's talked about having seen the podcast, Tashi, he mentioned that he has this gastric problem, this problem with stomach, and he spends a lot of time on the shitter. And he was very thankful that I make these long podcast things so that he can watch them while he's taking a shit. So, I'm sorry to hear that about your ass, and I'm glad I can offer some solace in your hour of need. Now, the first thing I'll talk about is this idea. There's many strands to this idea. Letting go is something I mentioned earlier. I mentioned probably almost in every episode. This idea of letting go and the power of letting go and the importance of letting go. And today, as I was refilling the chili oil at work in the morning, I was thinking about how I'm an overthinker. I think too much. I think all the time, and how that's negative. And what I tend to do is think about. It's almost like I'm playing. I just thought about that now. It's almost like I'm playing chess all the time, and I'm always thinking about. Maybe I should have played this instead of that. Maybe if I had played this, the opponent would have played that. Thinking about how moves. Thinking about future moves and past moves and where I could have gone wrong. Always analyzing and just going in circles, basically, with the same ideas. Always trying to predict the future, always trying to fix the past. Very bad. The opposite of letting go. And I was thinking about that and how that links to the idea of letting go. And I was thinking about something that Chef, our boss, told us at work. People don't know what they want or need until they have it, which is not something that it's not an original thought. I think many people have said that. I don't know where it originates. I remember hearing it, I think from Apple, from Steve Jobs, but I'm not certain. Anyways, I'm sure it's been thought and said probably for centuries. It's not a new idea. But people don't know what they want until they get it. Now the principle, lightning. The principle behind this idea, I think one of them is that there are people whose job it is. There are people who have jobs. There are people who have careers in certain disciplines and they spend their whole lifetime, trying to get better at it. There are people whose job it is to make bed sheets, beds, mattresses, cameras, etc. And those people who are experts in their field, they know what to do, essentially. They know how to make their product better. They know how to improve your life with their product. And so people don't know what they want or need until they got it. We'll stick to people don't know what they need until they got it, right? One thing I like to say is people don't want what they want, which my brother would immediately call that a stupid quote, but I like it. People don't want what they want, and I stand by that. So people don't know what they need until they got it, right? Something he told us at work. It's a restaurant that celebrates China, not a Chinese restaurant. But the way the menu works, I work at lunch, is it's unorthodox if you're not used to dim sum. It's a very specific experience. And our job, as we give the menu to the guests, is to introduce the experience and explain how it's supposed to play out. And at least every day, one table, they'll decide that they want to do it differently. He's adamant that we have to make it clear how the experience is supposed to play out to the guest. Chef, he's adamant that we have to introduce it, drill it into their head that this is how it goes. And so I have my speech, always the same. I have worked on it, refined it, and I feel it's pretty concise and obvious, But everyone, from time to time, a table will decide, we'll do it differently, right? And they always end up having an inferior experience to the ones who follow the guidance, so to speak, right? And from their perspective, they think, I'm the guest, I'm the person who's paying for the meal, I should be in control of the experience to a degree. So it's dim sum, you have the first page, you have 20 dim sum. Actually, I'll do the speech for you. I'll do the pitch. Do I have a piece of paper? It doesn't matter. Good afternoon, welcome to our restaurant. here's our menu. Have you been with us before for lunch? Right, give the menu. I'll open it. So on the first page, you have your dim sum. Now dim sum, brain fart immediately. Now dim sum, the dim sum is there. Jesus Christ, what the fuck do I say? Now these are very small pieces, basically 1 bite each, right? So there's 2 of you. Recommend you take 8 to 10 pieces, and ideally you order them in doubles each time so you get served together. Now sometimes I'll emphasize that by saying sometimes one person will pick the first half of the menu and the other person will pick the second half, and the result is, as the food arrives, one person will be eating while the other person is watching, right? Make it clear. On the second page you have your snacks, blah 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 blah. But we make it clear that the way this is supposed to work is that you pick 8 dim sum, right, that you're both gonna have, and you get 2 of each, and then you get your snacks and your shared dishes, right? And if you do that, you'll get a beautiful, smooth experience. Sometimes people will go outside of the guidance, and as I said, one person will be eating and the other person will be watching, and vice versa. The point is that chef has been working on this menu and on this experience and on this cuisine for decades, literally, and done research, etc., and just been a chef for a long time. So he knows how best to present the experience and how best to experience his food. And he's made it clear to us that we shouldn't feel like, oh, the guest or the customer is king. They know that we should follow them. No. He's the expert. We are his minions, and we have to teach them what he knows to be right. And we have to actually almost force their hand into doing what is best for them, because they don't know what's best sometimes. Which, at first it was difficult for me to think that way, because I think, here's this person who's going to spend at least 100 pounds per head, right? How am I going to tell them, don't do it that way, do it this way, But the point is, people don't know what they want people don't know what they need until they got it. And that's because these people are customers. We call them guests, but they're customers. They're buying a product, and chef is the expert, and he knows what he's selling, and he knows how to best experience it. And so I was thinking of this idea of people don't know what they need until they got it, as it pertains to God. As it pertains to God. In terms of, is there a God? Does there exist? Who knows? But I do believe in this idea of a higher force, something beyond our understanding. Now I think as humans, we had this need of thinking in those terms. Although, now I think humans, it seems, a lot of people have this need to simplify this idea into God, into this being, as almost a person that's really powerful, right? The way I see it, I like to think of it as just the universe, this something. It's actually very hard to kind of break it down. I remember once talking about it in terms of essentialism versus existentialism with my brother, I think. And the way I talked about it was, you think of dominoes. The universe is just a huge kind of expanding like spider web of dominoes, and they're just falling onto each other, and they're just making the next domino fall. And everything I act out, everything I do is just a result of something that's happened before. It's just a reaction to something. Every single thing. It's just a reaction. Therefore, if everything is a reaction, whether I know it or not, then I am not truly in control. I'm just reacting to the previous thing. And at some point, the thing, for example, my existence is not my doing. I didn't choose to exist. And the way I was brought up, etc., I'm just reacting to something that's happened before, always, continuously. And so as a result, I'm not really in control. And also as a result, this idea of worrying about the past, the future, all these things are irrelevant, because what's going to happen is going to happen, right? And I do think more and more I'm liking the idea of simplifying this concept to just God, right? And the same way that chef is the expert in the kitchen and in the restaurant, and he knows what we need, right? And there's no point as a customer, as a guest, saying, yeah, but you've been in this restaurant for 5 minutes and you think you know better than the guy who's been in the kitchen for 20 years. And, shut up. It's not an ego thing. Just think about it for a second and you'll realize that the best thing you can do is just shut up. As Chef likes to say, just shut up, listen, and do as you're told. As harsh as that sounds, you'll get the best out of the experience if you do that, right? And so thinking about this idea as it pertains to God and letting go, that's why you should let go. That's why I should let go. Because as much as I want to ramble and think and question what's going to happen in the future and question how I could change, what I should have done better in the past, how about I just let go, shut up, and accept life as it happens. Accept that if I'm here right now, it's because I'm supposed to be here. And to simplify it, it's because God wants me to be here. And if I feel a certain way, it's just because I'm supposed to feel that way. You should just accept it. There's this quote that I also brought to my brother's attention and he thought it was stupid. But I like it. I think it's the second arrow cuts the deepest or something like that. This idea that once you've been shot by the first arrow, your reaction to that pain could turn into a second arrow, in terms of you could accentuate the pain by worrying about it. Your reaction to something could make it worse. And that's the worst part. The worst part of getting stabbed might be reacting to it wrong and making it worse, as opposed to you get stabbed and you do the right thing in that situation and you don't make it worse. So it all connects to this idea of letting go. And every time I'm overthinking, I try to tell myself, what you're doing right now is just you're making your life worse. Objectively making your life worse. So why? Just stop. Just let go. If you're here right now, you're supposed to be here. If I'm supposed to be here, then I'm supposed to experience the present. I'm supposed to be present. I'm not supposed to be meandering in my mind about things that are irrelevant. So I'm going to try to summarize this, just checking if there are any notes that... No. So I'll try to summarize it. You don't know what you want, you don't know what you need until you got it, right? It's just the same in a restaurant as it is in real life. You're not the expert of life, right? God is. So the best thing to do is to let go. Accept that whatever's happening to you is the best thing that could be happening to you right now. You might not know it, but let's face it, you don't know anything. I don't know anything. So just accept. You don't know what's happening. You don't know anything. Whatever's happening right now is what's supposed to happen. Just let go, just accept that. Right, I think that makes sense. But I've had this argument about, is it called determinism? Too many words. I don't know what I'm talking about, but about this idea of, I guess, free will, and how I don't believe free will makes any sense. And I remember Noam Chomsky, I believe his name is, talking about it in terms of, whether it's this way or that way, it doesn't really matter, which I suppose makes sense. But I don't like when I talk about it and people act like it doesn't make any sense. No. Everything you do is a reaction to something that's happened previously. Everything that's happening all the time, everywhere, is a reaction to something else, always. And so if you think about the universe as being spawned by this Big Bang, right, this explosion, that's how the dominoes got set into motion. Stars collided with stars, asteroids collided with meteorites, the Earth formed. Things just happened as a reaction to what happened previously. So if you can explain your entire life by going backwards to what happened before every event, then it makes sense that everything happened outside of your control and you're just programmed in a certain way. Every action is just the next domino in the sequence. I think that makes sense. So free will, I don't believe in free will. And I also believe that it doesn't matter either way. I don't like this idea of people just negating that idea. Oh no, free will exists. They always say, "Oh fuck." There was a moment where I was having this specific argument just with anyone I could, and people always answer the same thing. Well, how about, oh yeah, if there's no free will, then how come right now I could just go? Isn't that free will? Right? That's what they would do, right? Right now I could just jump out the window. Isn't that free will? Jesus, it's getting dark in here. My whiteness can't compete with the darkness here. And no, it doesn't. It doesn't negate the idea, because you would be reacting to what I'm saying, and I'm saying what I'm saying because I am who I am. I am who I am because of every single experience that's happened to me, that's shaped me. I reacted to those experiences because I am who I am. You know, my genetic, my DNA, my makeup, just all things outside of my control. And I'm bringing this idea to you, and you're reacting from you're reacting based on who you are, which is also outside of your control. Anyways, you would be reacting to my statement. So why are you talking about free will if you're talking about how you can react however you want based on who you are to my statement? Like, the idea of free will doesn't mean, the idea that there's no free will doesn't mean you can't do anything you want. It means that what you're doing, whatever you're doing, is outside of your control. So just because you can, go to Charles Manson, do the Charles Manson dance, doesn't mean you have free will. It just means that's who you are, and that's how you would react to that specific interaction. Alright, so I said that. What else do I have to say? Not much, to be honest. I'm late on this podcast, and I had an idea of how I wanted to shoot it differently this time, but I got home late, and I'm late on the podcast. Just had to get it out of the way. Not much else to say. I guess there is, but it's a bit touchy. It's a bit uncomfortable to talk about. But fuck it. Talk about it. Sex. Where do I start? So I mentioned before that my mind has been corrupted and fucked up by porn since I was 11. That's when I started watching. And it's weird. It's my second relationship. I don't remember how my first one didn't affect at all my view of sex, which is weird. I would still watch porn actually when I was with her, the previous one, because I was very unhappy. But currently, my previous conceptions of what sex is, everything about sex has changed. And when I decided to stop watching porn, and also to just stop masturbating, I guess, I realigned myself, I would say, I guess. Right? We'll keep to the ideas we mentioned in the past. I realigned myself in terms of having a more healthy view on what sex is. But before doing that, my idea of it was affected so much by popular media, by porn, by just how people talk about it. Even people like, for example, Andrew Tate. And I had really bought into this idea that as a man, you want as much sex as possible. You should be able to acquire it easily, and you should indulge in it. That, as Tate likes to say all the time, every king, every emperor, every great man in history had many women, right? And currently, I feel like the way I feel about it, honestly, does not align with how I thought I felt before I had let go of many of these ideas. Until recently, that's how I felt. I mean, when I was addicted to pornography, I felt like, oh my god, I want to have sex. I want to be able to have sex all the time, anywhere. I want to be the kind of guy who can, just talk to any woman and she'll fall in love and all this. And, I'll become rich and powerful and I'll have many women. That's how I felt. And I think many people who are in that delusional state where they don't really know what they're talking about, many people feel that way around the world. That as a man, you should be able, all this. And currently, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like sex is overrated in terms of... It is. There's this phrase, better than sex. I remember watching a podcast where they were talking about things. I don't remember what exactly, but I was saying, is this better than sex? Which is, it's kind of a comical phrase. This idea that sex is the top, right? And, oh, this chocolate cake I had the other day, it was so good, it was better than sex. As if the baseline, the top, is sex, and nothing beats that. And yeah, I feel like since my relationship with it has changed, gradually, the way I feel about it is that popular media does everything it can to put sex at the top of the list as if it's the most important thing. And it really doesn't feel that way. It's nice, it feels good. And I can't imagine doing it with someone I'm not strongly connected with. But currently, the way I feel about it is that it feels good, it's nice. It's part of the way you bond with your partner. But it's not the greatest thing in the world. It's weird to just say all of this, because since I was 11 and I started my journey towards hell in terms of being addicted to that shit and just having no self-control and being bombarded with images and just indulging all the time, I really felt like it's normal. As a man, you're always horny and you want to have this ability to indulge. And currently, now that I can indulge in terms of I can have sex, I feel like it's nice to do it from time to time, but it's not the end all be all. And this idea of having multiple women and stuff like that's a lot of energy. That's investing a lot of attention and energy in different directions. It's just a waste. I much prefer the idea of finding someone you're actually connected with and sex being a part of that relationship, but not everything. And that's one thing I really look up to Andrew Tate and the idea of Andrew Tate. But one thing that I don't like is that although he doesn't seem to be aware of it, and I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I truly think he dislikes women. And I'm not saying he dislikes women in terms of he mistreats them, or he's a misogynist, or he's a horrible person. But I do think that, from what I've seen, he actually does have a dislike towards women. He does feel like they're inferior. And I get that mostly from when he talks about his mother. He has this whole persona and this whole idea of how men nowadays should behave towards women. And I'm literally in the dark right now, I think. It's going to be very grainy when I edit this. He has this whole philosophy. And I understand part of it, how it's supposed to help men who are vulnerable. But I'm very confident in the fact that he actually dislikes women. And he doesn't seem to have a healthy relationship. He doesn't seem to see them as people. Right? He'll talk about how they're beautiful, they're nurturing, but he'll only talk about women in terms of how they affect his life. And this idea that, and a lot of people talk about it in those terms, and that women, the modern woman has strayed away from her natural instincts. They want to have careers, they want to be successful, they want money, they want this. But that goes against their instinct, right? Because they're supposed to be mothers. And I believe there's some truth to that in terms of people going against their instinct nowadays, and people rejecting their nature. But I think that this manosphere and this red pill stuff has really pushed it too far in the other direction, where they're trying to suggest that the best a woman can be is a housewife, one that is devoted totally to her husband, and that's just taking care of the kids basically and making sure she looks pretty, and she's taking care of her husband. And there are men who are attracted to that, which is crazy. Like, that's one thing he'll say literally. He's not looking for a woman who's successful or anything, right? He wants her to be kind of pure, I suppose he likes to say.